The desert sun scorched the horizon, baking the red sands into shimmering waves of heat. Ronan Vale trudged forward, every step sinking slightly into the powdery grit that coated this forgotten world. His canteen sloshed half-empty against his hip, and the rifle across his back dug into his shoulder with familiar weight. The weapon was an antique, a relic from Earth, but Ronan had no use for the sleek energy rifles of the modern age. He preferred something reliable, mechanical, something that matched the rough solitude he had carved out here. 15 years of service in the Interstellar Corps had left him scarred in more ways than one. The disaster at Proxima still haunted him, and after losing too much, comrades, friends, even the woman he once thought he'd build a future with, he had sworn off humanity's endless wars and politics. Now, on this barren desert world known locally as Aridan, he lived alone, harvesting moisture from the air, tending his solar panels, and hunting just enough to keep himself alive. A quiet life. A small life. But at least it was his. His homestead finally appeared on the horizon, a squat, sturdy building of stone and metal, built to withstand the planet's brutal dust storms. Beyond it, a faint shimmer marked the hum of his moisture collectors, pulling precious drops of water from Eridan's arid winds. Ronan sighed with relief, adjusting the strap of his pack. Then something caught his eye. Movement. Among the crumbling ruins scattered near his home, remnants of an extinct civilization whose spires had long since collapsed back into the sand, something shifted. Ronan stopped, hand instinctively going to the sidearm at his hip. The ruins were eerie at twilight, their broken arches and shattered walls casting long shadows as the sun bled toward the horizon. For years, he had lived here alone. Nothing ever moved in those ruins but wind and vermin. Hello. His voice was rough, disused. The sound seemed to vanish into the stones. Silence. Then, faintly, a scraping noise. Ronan drew his weapon and advanced, boots crunching softly on sand and stone. The ruins formed a natural alcove, dark and cool compared to the merciless desert. He paused, eyes narrowing, scanning the shadows. That's when he saw it, a flicker of deep blue. I said show yourself. His tone hardened, military instinct surfacing like a ghost. Something stirred. From behind a fallen column, a figure emerged. Ronan's breath caught. She was humanoid, but definitely not human. Her skin was a deep cerulean blue that shimmered faintly in the fading light. Her hair, long and braided with intricate patterns, cascaded over her shoulders like woven starlight. Her eyes, large and silver, held vertical pupils that caught and reflected every flicker of illumination. She wore a torn combat suit streaked with blood, the fabric clinging to her slender, athletic frame. The wounds looked fresh and painful, her stance unsteady. Still, her gaze never left him, wary, calculating, prepared to fight if necessary. You're hurt, Ronan said, lowering his weapon slightly. The woman's hand instinctively pressed against her side, where dark blood seeped through. She said nothing, but the tension in her shoulders told him she understood his intent, if not his words. I'm not going to hurt you, Ronan continued, slowly holstering his weapon. He unclipped his canteen and extended it toward her. Water. Her silver eyes widened ever so slightly. Hesitation flickered across her face before she reached out with trembling fingers. Their hands brushed, her skin cool against his calloused warmth. A strange jolt shot through him at the contact, unexpected, unsettling. She lifted the canteen, drank deeply, and then returned it with the faintest nod. Gratitude, perhaps. You need medical attention, Ronan said, gesturing toward his homestead. I've got supplies. The alien woman followed his gesture, her gaze narrowing on the stone and metal shelter. She tried to take a step but faltered, her knees buckling. Without thinking, Ronan lunged forward, catching her before she hit the ground. She stiffened at his touch but didn't resist as he guided her upright. Easy, he murmured, slipping an arm around her waist. She was surprisingly light, and as he supported her, he noticed faint markings along her skin, delicate swirls and lines that might have been natural patterns, or perhaps cultural symbols. By the time they reached his homestead, the sun had vanished completely, leaving only the desert stars blazing above. Inside, Ronan helped her onto his narrow cot, the only soft surface in his Spartan dwelling. He retrieved a battered medical kit, cleaning and dressing her wounds with practiced efficiency. Most were shallow cuts, but one gash along her side required stitching. This might hurt, he warned softly, though he doubted she understood. Still, he kept talking as he worked, the silence of his own voice too heavy otherwise. Name's Ronan. Ronan Vale. Used to be a soldier. Now just a hermit trying to stay out of trouble. Her silver eyes followed every movement, intent and unblinking. When he finished, she lifted one hand, placing it gently over his. Then she touched her chest with the other. "Aelira," she whispered, her voice melodic even through pain. Ronan blinked. "Aelira?" She nodded once. "That's your name." Another nod. "Well, Aelira," Ronan said quietly, "you're safe here. Rest." Her eyelids fluttered shut, exhaustion overtaking her at last. Ronan lingered for a moment, studying her strange, beautiful features, then retreated to the chair by his window. Outside, the desert stretched infinite under a canopy of stars. He disassembled and cleaned his rifle, more out of habit than necessity, his mind circling endlessly around the improbable arrival of this wounded alien woman. By dawn, when the first light crept across the desert floor, the cot was empty. Only blood-stained bandages and the imprint of her body on the bedding remained. She was gone. Ronan stood in the doorway, scanning the horizon. Nothing moved but the heat shimmer of morning air. "Well," he muttered, rubbing his jaw. "Guess that's that." He tried to settle back into his routine, checking the collectors, adjusting the solar grid, preparing for another day of hunting, but his thoughts kept drifting back to Silver Eyes and the soft syllable of her name, Aelira. That evening, as twilight bled once again across the desert sky, Ronan sat on his porch nursing a cup of bitter synth coffee. The first stars had just begun to appear when he felt it, a low vibration thrumming through the ground beneath his boots. The sound grew quickly into a rolling rumble. Ronan set the cup aside and grabbed his rifle. A cloud of dust rose on the horizon, moving fast. The rumble became a thunderous roar. His jaw tightened as shapes resolved out of the haze, massive four-legged beasts, striped in luminescent blue, their eyes glowing eerily in the dark. Upon their backs rode warriors, dozens of them, their blue-skinned forms unmistakable even at a distance. They surrounded his homestead in perfect formation, the beasts halting at some silent command. At their center, astride the largest mount, sat Aelira. Gone was the fragile, wounded fugitive of yesterday. Now she was resplendent, clad in gleaming armor, her braided hair interwoven with silver threads, a circlet crowning her brow. She dismounted with regal grace, her silver eyes locking on his. "Ronan Vale," she said, her voice strong and commanding. "You saved my life." Ronan tightened his grip on the rifle, though he didn't raise it. He stood on the porch, boots planted firmly, trying not to look as unsettled as he felt. Yesterday, Aelira had been half dead in his bed. Today, she was a warrior queen, flanked by an army of blue-skinned riders astride glowing beasts that made his homestead look like a toy house. "You're looking better," Ronan said dryly, letting the words mask the knot forming in his gut. Aelira's lips curved into the faintest smile. "The Thorini heal quickly." She gestured toward the armored warriors surrounding his home. "These are my people, the Zarathi Guard. Elite riders, sworn to protect the bloodline. I was separated from them in battle with rival clans." Ronan glanced at the warriors. Their armor gleamed with metallic patterns, their posture rigid and disciplined. Each rider sat astride a Veyrak, the tiger-like beasts with glowing eyes that pawed restlessly at the sand. He muttered under his breath, "Hell of a rescue party." Aelira stepped closer, her expression softer now. "You did more than rescue me. You showed honor." By our ancient laws, one who saves the life of the first daughter must be rewarded. Rewarded? Ronan echoed. Look, I don't need anything. I was just. She cut him off with raised hand. It is not a choice. It is tradition. At her signal, a rider brought forward a massive Veyrak, riderless but staring at Ronan with unblinking, glowing eyes. The beast's breath steamed faintly in the cooling evening air, each exhale carrying a hint of ozone. This one has chosen you, Aelira said with calm finality. The Veyrak bond only with those they deem worthy. His name is Shirek. Ronan barked a short laugh. I don't know the first thing about riding one of these things. You will learn. Aelira's voice rose so all could hear. As he is chosen by Shirek, so too is he chosen by me. Ronan Vale, by the ancient laws of the Therini, you are now my future mate. The world seemed to tilt. Ronan blinked. I'm sorry, you're what? My mate. Her silver eyes met his steadily, as though she were discussing nothing more controversial than the weather. The one who saves the first daughter must be joined with her in marriage. It is our way. The warriors thumped their fists against their armored chests in unison, the sound booming like thunder. Ronan felt heat climb up the back of his neck. He lowered his rifle slowly, staring at Aelira in disbelief. Listen, he said, rubbing the back of his neck, I appreciate the honor, but I don't think. It is not an offer, she interrupted gently but firmly. It is law. He ran a hand through his dusty hair. I don't have a house. No tribe. Just this shack in the middle of nowhere. Her smile bloomed, dazzling in the starlight. Then you do now. The Zarathi are your house. Your tribe. Your family. Ronan exhaled hard, caught between disbelief and a strange pull he couldn't name. For 15 years, he had lived with silence and sand as his only companions. Now, within 2 days, an alien princess had dismantled his solitude with an army and a marriage decree. His instincts screamed to back away. And yet, when he looked into Aelira's silver eyes, he saw not arrogance, but certainty. Conviction. A spark of something that stirred the ashes of feelings he had buried long ago. This is happening fast, he muttered. Life is fast, Aelira said simply. Death is faster. We honor both by embracing what fate brings us. Ronan chuckled bitterly, shaking his head. My water must be worth more than I thought. The next morning, as the first light crept over the desert, Ronan packed lightly, rifle, canteen, a few personal keepsakes. Everything else could stay. If this turned out to be a trap, he wouldn't need it anyway. And if it wasn't, well, apparently he was getting married to a princess of an alien people. Aelira approached, leading Shirek, the Veyrak with stripes glowing faintly like embers. Up close, the beast was even more formidable, muscles rippling beneath fur that shifted from deep cobalt to black as it caught the morning light. Your mount awaits, she said. Ronan eyed the creature warily. I've never ridden anything bigger than a horse. The Veyrak respond to intent more than reins, Aelira explained, placing his hand on Shirek's flank. He will feel your thoughts. That's unsettling, Ronan muttered. Only if your thoughts are. A teasing glint flickered in her eyes. The beast knelt gracefully, allowing him to mount. The saddle, molded with alien craftsmanship, fit him surprisingly well. With a rumbling growl, Shirek rose, moving with predatory grace. The Zarathi riders formed up around him and Aelira, their formation as seamless as a flowing river. You people are impressive, Ronan said, guiding Shirek to match Aelira's pace. Military? All Therini are warriors, she replied. But these are the Vozari, my elite guard. And you? That makes you what, a princess? Her brow furrowed. This word does not translate well. Status among my people is earned. I train daily to prove my worth as first daughter, to lead when my father's time ends. So, you're basically a princess who can outfight half her own guard. Ronan smirked. And I'm the lucky idiot who handed you a canteen. Not luck, Alira corrected softly. Compassion. Our law honors those who rise above fear and instinct. You gave water when you could have given only suspicion. They rode in silence for a while, the desert vast and endless around them, the rhythmic gait of the Veyrak strangely soothing. Ronan found his gaze drifting to her. The way she sat tall and steady despite hours in the saddle, her braids catching glints of morning light. Why were you alone? He asked finally. When I found you. Her expression darkened. Politics. Not all support my father's vision. The Drakari clan seeks to capture me. Through me, they would control our people. Someone tried to kill you, Ronan said grimly. Capture, she corrected. Death gains them nothing. Control gains them everything. A sharp protective instinct flared in Ronan's chest, surprising him. He clenched the reins tighter, though Shirek needed no urging. By evening, the warriors set camp among jagged rocks, their shelters blending seamlessly with the terrain. Alira led Ronan to a prepared dwelling, its floor lined with mats, its glow orbs casting warm light. These are your quarters, she said. Mine are adjacent. Pretty luxurious for a military camp, Ronan observed. For the Thurini, beauty is not a luxury. It is a necessity of the spirit. She hesitated, then asked, will you join me for the evening meal? There are customs you must know before we reach Nirathan. Ronan nodded, suddenly aware of how close she stood, how her silver eyes reflected the glow orbs. I'd like that. Dinner was simple but rich with flavors he didn't recognize, yet found oddly satisfying. They ate apart from the others, close enough for privacy. In 3 days we reach Nirathan, Alira explained. You will be the first human many have ever seen. Some may challenge you. Tests of strength or endurance. They will seek to measure your worth. Great, Ronan muttered. Just what I need. You were a warrior once, she said. Marine. Long time ago, he admitted. Different life. The skills remain. I have seen how you move, how your eyes miss nothing. He met her gaze, words slipping out before he could stop them. Including how beautiful you are. A deeper shade of blue flushed across her cheeks, but she didn't look away. Humans are direct. Refreshing. The air between them thickened, charged with possibilities. Ronan leaned slightly closer. This marriage law, is it just politics, or do your people ever marry for other reasons? The law brings us together, Alira said softly. But what grows between us is our choice. Her hand rested on the mat between them. Slowly, deliberately, Ronan placed his over it. Her cool fingers turned, intertwining with his. That night, long after the camp quieted, Ronan lay awake, staring at the canvas ceiling. For years, he had told himself solitude was safer than loss. Now, one alien woman had already begun dismantling those walls. And just beyond that thin wall, Alira was awake too, thinking of the human who had risked his safety for hers. For the first time in her life, the path laid out for her by blood and duty no longer felt so rigid. It felt like possibility. The second night of their journey, the caravan entered a hidden grove where ancient trees stretched upward like living cathedrals. Their leaves glowed with a faint luminescence, bathing the clearing in an ethereal green-blue light. Water trickled from a spring, collecting in a pool that reflected the twin moons overhead. To Ronan, who had grown used to endless sand and barren stone, the grove felt like stepping into another world. This place is called Ilyara, Alira said softly, leading him past the pool. The dreaming heart. It is sacred to my people. Few are permitted within its circle. Ronan let out a low whistle. I can see why. It's incredible. Alira hesitated, then turned to him, her silver eyes luminous in the moonlight. Tonight, if you are willing, I would share with you the Tali, the communion of spirits. Among the Tharini, it precedes a union. It reveals truth beyond words. Memory, emotion, essence. Ronan stiffened. A psychic connection? Not exactly, she murmured. More an exchange. A sharing of what lies beneath the surface. She glanced toward the glowing pool. The waters of Ilyara heighten our natural abilities. They allow us to see each other as we truly are. He looked down at his hands, remembering blood, fire, the collapse at Proxima. The faces he had failed to save. My past isn't something you want to see. I have my own shadows, Illyra replied, her voice steady but gentle. If we are to be joined by law, then let us choose whether we are joined by spirit as well. Her openness struck him harder than any blade could. For so long, he had walled away his grief, but here she was, offering not only to see it, but to share her own in return. After a long silence, Ronan nodded. What do we do? They knelt on opposite sides of the pool, dipping their fingertips into the glowing water. Illyra reached toward him, her wet hand hovering near his temple. May I? She asked softly. He swallowed hard, then mirrored her gesture. Do it. Their fingertips touched. The world dissolved. Ronan was everywhere and nowhere, pulled into the stream of her memories. He saw Illyra as a child, training under her father Kaler's stern gaze. He felt her determination, her loneliness as first daughter, the crushing weight of responsibility she carried. He saw the ambush that had separated her from her guard, the Dracari blades cutting through the desert night, the terror of knowing she might be captured. And beneath it all, he felt her growing curiosity toward him, the strange human who had shown compassion where suspicion would have been easier. In turn, he felt her moving through him. His childhood on Earth. The camaraderie of soldiers. The firestorm of Proxima. Sarah's final breath as the ceiling collapsed. His years of exile, punishing himself for surviving when others hadn't. And finally, his astonishment when Illyra first spoke her name in his home, her voice fragile but filled with strength. When the vision faded, they were both kneeling, tears streaking down their faces. Now you know me, Illyra whispered. And you know me, Ronan replied, his voice raw. She leaned across the pool, taking his hands in hers. What happened at Proxima was not your fault. You saved who you could, just as you saved me. The dam inside him cracked. He pulled her into his arms, clinging as years of buried grief bled out in shuddering breaths. She held him fiercely, her cool skin grounding him in a way nothing else ever had. Their lips met, tentative at first, then deepening with inevitability. Two souls who had seen each other's truths, stripped bare, and chosen to stay. Later, lying together beneath the glowing canopy, Illyra traced the scars on his chest. Your people are fragile, yet resilient. You endured what many could not. Ronan smiled faintly, running a hand along her braid. We're stubborn. Sometimes that's all that keeps us alive. Her expression darkened. The Dracari will not stop. Their leader, Vedras, believes that by controlling me, he will control my father, and through him, all Tharini. Then he'll have to get through me first, Ronan growled. Her lips quirked at his tone, but before she could respond, shouts erupted at the grove's edge. The soft hum of night was shattered by the clash of blades. Warriors cried out, their voices cut short. Illyra was on her feet in an instant, blade flashing into her hand. Stay close, she commanded. The softness of the Tali was gone, replaced by the fire of a commander. Dark figures swept into the grove, Tharini, but clad in blackened armor streaked with crimson. Dracari raiders. They moved with deadly precision, their curved blades flashing under the moonlight. Ronan raised his rifle, sighted, and fired. The crack of the shot rang like thunder, alien and unfamiliar to both friend and foe. One raider fell, and for a heartbeat, everyone froze, shocked by the strange weapon. Then a mocking voice cut through the chaos. The first daughter takes a human mate. How desperate the Zarathi have become. A tall figure stepped into the moonlight, skin midnight blue, eyes molten silver. Vedras. His bald head gleamed, a single long braid hanging down his back. His gaze flicked to Ronan with disdain. Surrender, Elira, and I will spare your pet. I'm nobody's pet, Ronan snarled. He has every place here, Elira countered sharply. Ronan Vale is my chosen mate, by law and by spirit. To harm him is to strike at our traditions. Vedras laughed, the sound like grinding stone. Traditions break. The Dracari will rule. At his signal, his warriors closed in. Ronan's soldier instincts surged. Surrounded, outnumbered, unfamiliar ground. But he noticed something, the glowing leaves above them brightened whenever disturbed. The grove was alive, responsive. He leaned close to Elira. The waters of Ilyara enhance more than just memory, don't they? Her eyes widened. Yes, all life here is connected. Then trust me, he said, pulling a small flask of sacred water from his belt. He stepped forward, raising his voice so all could hear. Before you start anything stupid, Vedras, maybe you should consider who you're dealing with. The outsider from your prophecy. A flicker of unease crossed the warlord's face. You know nothing of it. I know enough, Ronan bluffed, recalling fragments from Elira's memories. The outsider who brings change. Who either destroys the Tharini or elevates them. Looks like me, doesn't it? The Dracari murmured among themselves, shaken. Vedras sneered. Then face me in single combat. If you fall, she is mine. If I fall, my warriors will leave. Done, Ronan said. Elira hissed, he's one of the most skilled fighters alive. I'm not here to beat him, Ronan whispered. I'm here to outthink him. The duel began in the grove's heart. Vedras moved like lightning, his blade a blur. Ronan dodged narrowly, retreating deeper among the glowing trees. Each strike against bark made the leaves blaze brighter. Vedras sneered. Is this how humans fight? Running? No, Ronan said, backing toward the pool. This is how we win. He flicked droplets of Ilyara's water into the canopy above. Now, Elira, tell your people to close their eyes. She shouted the command just as the droplets struck the leaves. The grove exploded with blinding light. The Dracari screamed, staggering, their sensitive eyes overwhelmed. Ronan had squeezed his eyes shut just in time. He lunged, driving his boot into Vedras's knee and following with a brutal strike to the chest. The warlord crumpled, weapon clattering to the ground. As the light faded, Ronan stood over him, boot on his chest. Prophecy speaks truth, Vedras spat. You bring destruction. No, Elira said, stepping forward. He brings change. The choice of what it means has always been ours. Ronan pressed harder with his boot, glaring down at the fallen warlord. Tell your clan what you saw. Tell them the first daughter calls for counsel when the moons align. Vedras's eyes burned with hatred, but some of his warriors nodded reluctantly. They retreated into the night, leaving silence and smoke behind. Later, by the sacred pool, Elira took Ronan's hand. You knew about the prophecy, she said. Pieces of it, he admitted. And I guessed the water would amplify the grove. She shook her head in wonder. In all our history, no one thought to use the waters that way. Sometimes it takes an outsider, Ronan said softly. Her silver eyes met his. I believe you were meant to find me. That the water you offered was not chance, but destiny. And in the glowing silence of Ilyara, they kissed again, their bond sealed not just by law, but by something far stronger, choice. Nirathan rose from the desert like a mirage, a sprawling city of spires and terraces where waterfalls cascaded from hidden aqueducts into lush gardens. Ronan had to blink several times to believe it was real. He had grown used to dust and solitude, but here was abundance, life carved out of desolation. Our ancestors built this upon underground springs, Elira explained, watching his awe. Generations of labor expanded it into what you see. It's incredible, Ronan admitted, voice hushed. Their arrival did not go unnoticed. Crowds of Therini lined the streets, silver eyes fixed on the human riding beside their first daughter. Children pointed, some laughing with excitement, others hiding behind their parents' robes. Adults whispered, suspicion and curiosity blending in their expressions. The name outsider rippled through the air like a wind. They've heard of your victory over Vedras, Elira murmured. And of the prophecy. The central spire housed the High Council. 12 elders gathered there with Kalar Soren, Elira's father and leader of the Zarathi. Tall and broad-shouldered, his twilight-colored skin and piercing silver eyes marked him as a figure of command. When Ronan entered the chamber, Kalar's gaze cut through him like a blade. So, Kalar said, his deep voice filling the chamber, this is the human who defeated Vedras of the Dracarys. I'm Ronan Vale, he replied, standing tall despite the weight of so many eyes. He saved my life, Elira added firmly. When I was wounded and alone. With water, one of the elders interjected, her patterned skin glittering in the sunlit dome. The ancient texts speak of such a gesture. Murmurs spread. Kalar raised a hand for silence. The timing is significant. The prophecy speaks of the outsider who brings water, who faces our enemies, who arrives at the alignment of the twin moons, which comes in 3 cycles. Another elder scoffed. Convenient. Or destined, countered the female elder. Kalar descended from his dais, circling Ronan slowly. You claim the right to my daughter's hand. I claim nothing, Ronan said evenly. Your laws chose that. I respect them. But I'm not here to force anyone's hand, hers or mine. Kalar's eyes flickered with faint approval. And yet, you fought for her. I fought because it was right, Ronan said simply. Because she matters. That honesty seemed to ripple through the chamber. Some elders nodded. Kalar's gaze softened a fraction, though his words remained iron. Then you will face the trial of essence. Only then will your place among us be secured. Before Ronan could ask, a guard burst in. High Leader. The Dracarys advance, all their forces, from the eastern ridge. Kalar's expression hardened. Prepare our defenses. The council erupted in motion, but Ronan caught Elira's arm. Let me help. I've defended settlements before. Moments later, he stood atop the eastern wall, surveying the desert. A dark mass advanced, hundreds of Dracarys warriors mounted on Veyrak, a living tide of fury. Elira's jaw tightened. Vedras commits everything. He means to break us before the moons align. Desperate men are dangerous, Ronan muttered, mind whirring. The terrain funneled into a narrow approach. Perfect for a stand. We can trap them there. Force them into killing zones. Kalar appeared beside them, armored and grim. Ronan met his gaze. With respect, I've fought too many battles to count. Let me help. Kalar studied him, then gave a curt nod. Very well. Show us. For hours, Ronan worked alongside Therini warriors, repositioning defenses, setting ambush points, planning counterattacks. Despite language gaps, his tactics spoke for themselves. As dusk deepened, he stood once more with Elira on the wall, the Dracarys army looming closer. My father still doesn't trust me, Ronan murmured. He is cautious, she replied. The prophecy has divided us for centuries. Some fear it heralds doom. Others hope for ascension. And you? Her fingers intertwined with his. I believe in what I have seen. In you. The words hit him harder than any blade. He leaned in, brushing her lips with his. When this is over, we figure it out. Together. Together, she whispered. A horn blared from the Dracarys ranks. The attack began. The twin moons rose, casting the battlefield in silver light. As they aligned, Ronan felt something surge within him, an electric, living connection. His skin tingled, his senses sharpened. The alignment, Elira breathed. It amplifies us. I feel it too, Ronan admitted. Perhaps the prophecy speaks truth in ways we never understood. The Dracari split their forces into 3 wedges. Ronan pointed sharply. They're dividing to overwhelm us. Good. We'll trap them here, here, and here. Close in behind, cut off retreat. And I'll need riders with me. 5 mounted warriors joined him. When the gates opened, they surged forward, catching the enemy completely off guard. The Dracari faltered, their formation collapsing as Ronan's strike force darted between their lines. Inside the city, defenders closed in, springing his traps. Chaos spread. Through it all, Ronan felt a pull, Vedra's. Not just his location, but his intent, raw and desperate. They locked eyes across the battlefield, both knowing this was the true test. They met in a clearing, Vedra's blade gleaming under twin moons. You cannot stop what is foretold, he growled. I'm not trying to stop it, Ronan said, circling. I'm trying to understand it. Maybe we both are. You will destroy us, Vedra spat. Change feels like destruction when you're inside it. But what if it means unity? The Zarathi and Dracari were once one people. The moons flared brighter, the glow washing over both armies. For a heartbeat, every Tharini, Zarathi and Dracari alike, felt the connection Ronan sensed. The prophecy, Elira said, riding forward, speaks of division before unity. Of an outsider who brings water, life, renewal. Kalar approached, his voice thunderous. The trial of essence was never about battle. It was about understanding the essence of who we are. Vedras hesitated, his warriors watching. Slowly, he lowered his weapon. Perhaps my reading was incomplete. Kalar inclined his head. As was mine. A profound silence fell. Centuries of enmity wavered, fragile but real. And in that silence, Ronan felt Elira's hand slip into his, grounding him. When the battle dissolved into uneasy peace, the first steps toward reconciliation had begun. Months later, the prophecy's final verses unfolded. Ronan and Elira stood in the moonlit pavilion of Nirathan, their union witnessed by both Zarathi and Dracari. The aligned moons cast silver fire upon them as they drank from the same cup, sealing their bond. For a brief, transcendent moment, the communion of Ilyara spread to all gathered, every warrior, every elder, sharing understanding across divisions. The celebration roared until dawn, but for Ronan, one quiet truth echoed: he was no longer an exile. He had found his place, among the Tharini, beside Elira. And when their daughter Salira was born beneath the next alignment, her skin a soft blue, her eyes a blend of silver and grey, the prophecy's last promise was fulfilled. She was living proof of 2 worlds joined, a child of hope and new beginnings. Ronan Vale, once a broken soldier in exile, had become part of something greater than himself. And it had all started with a simple act of kindness, offering water to a stranger in the ruins. And that, friends, is the tale of Ronan Vale and Elira Soren, the soldier and the first daughter, the exile and the princess, the human and the Tharini. From the burning deserts of Aridan to the luminous groves of Ilyara, from the clash of prophecy to the promise of unity, theirs is a story of how one small gesture can shift the fate of entire civilizations. Think about it, a single canteen of water. That's how it all began. No grand speeches, no mighty armies, no elaborate schemes. Just compassion, raw and simple. In a galaxy bristling with weapons and politics, kindness turned out to be the most powerful force of all. It's a reminder, maybe, that what we do in small, quiet moments can echo far louder than we imagine. You never know when an act of mercy might spark a bond, a friendship, or even a love that transcends worlds. Ronan thought he had left everything behind, the battles, the grief, the hope of ever belonging again. Yet destiny, or chance, or something greater, had other plans. And Aelira, bound by law but moved by choice, proved that traditions can bend when hearts are strong enough. Together, they didn't just fulfill an ancient prophecy. They rewrote it. They showed their people that prophecy is not about chains, but about possibilities. And with their daughter Selira, they began a new chapter, one no text could have fully foretold. If you enjoyed this journey, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you won't miss more stories like this. Drop a like if you felt the spark of Ronan and Aelira's tale, and share it with someone who needs a reminder that even the smallest kindness can change everything. Until next time, keep looking to the stars.